I remember the first time I realized love could come with a price tag. It wasn't some dramatic moment, no shouting or broken plates. It was just quiet, too quiet. I'm Daniel. I'm 38, a sales consultant from Ohio. I've been married to Claire for 9 years. We started like every couple does, promising forever, dreaming of trips we couldn't afford, and laughing about how we'd figure it out together. Back then, money was something we joked about. We'll live off ramen if we have to, she'd say. I believed her, but people change. Or maybe money just shows you who they really are. Things started shifting about 2 years ago when I switched jobs. My new position paid less but gave me more time at home. I thought that mattered. More dinners together, fewer late nights. But Claire didn't see it that way. She saw a smaller paycheck. At first, it was small comments. Maybe if you'd taken that promotion, we could have gone to Italy this summer. Or, I wish we could afford better gifts for my sister's wedding. They were just words, but they started to sting. I kept telling myself she didn't mean it, that she was just stressed. But the affection started fading piece by piece, like paint peeling off a wall you never noticed was cracked. The hugs turned into half-hearted taps on the back. The kisses became quick, distracted gestures before she turned to her phone. And the intimacy, well, that vanished altogether. One night I reached over to hold her and she physically pulled my hand away. Not roughly, just decisively. That kind of rejection doesn't need volume to hurt. I asked her softly, "What's going on with us, Claire?" She sighed, still facing the wall. "It's just, things feel different now. You're not the same." I wanted to ask what she meant, but I already knew. I'd seen the look in her eyes whenever she talked about her friends' husbands, engineers, executives, men with Teslas and lake houses. I didn't need to guess what she was comparing. Over the following weeks, she became colder. Every gesture felt like a transaction. When I offered to take her out, she'd ask, "Where?" Not when. As if the place mattered more than the company. One Saturday, I brought her breakfast in bed, just trying to bring back something. Normal. She glanced at the tray, smiled faintly, and said, "You know you don't have to do these things. Just focus on making more money, Daniel. That's what we need right now." That's when the first real crack appeared. A few nights later, we were invited to a dinner party by one of her coworkers. I wore my best shirt, though I noticed a button had loosened. Claire looked stunning in a navy dress I hadn't seen before. Probably new. On the drive there, she barely spoke. At dinner, she laughed at another man's jokes, her boss, maybe 5 years older than me. He talked about investments, golf clubs, and travel. I watched her smile like she hadn't smiled at me in months. When we got home, I asked if she had fun. She shrugged, taking off her earrings. "It's nice being around people who are ambitious." I said nothing. But something inside me started to harden. Days later, she handed me a credit card bill, one I didn't recognize. I asked, "When did we get this?" She replied without looking up. I opened it. "I needed it for a few things. The total was almost what I made in a month. We argued not because of the money, but because of what it meant." Her tone was cold, measured, rehearsed. Finally, she said it. Words I never thought I'd hear from her. "Daniel, affection now depends on your wallet. I can't pretend anymore. I want more out of life." It hit me like a punch to the chest. I looked at her, trying to find the woman who once told me love was enough. But she wasn't there anymore. I walked out of the room quietly, sat on the couch, and stared at the dark TV screen. The silence was heavy, like it had weight. That night, I didn't sleep. I thought about every moment we shared, every sacrifice I'd made believing love could outlast struggle. And for the first time, I started to wonder if she ever believed that, or if I was just the fool financing her patience. The next morning, the house felt colder than usual. The coffee tasted bitter, even though I hadn't changed anything about it. Claire came downstairs dressed for work, scrolling on her phone like nothing had happened. I said, "We need to talk." She didn't even look up. "About what?" "About what you said last night." She sighed, finally meeting my eyes. "Daniel, I was just being honest. I'm tired of pretending everything's okay. We're stuck and I can't keep living like this," I asked quietly. "Living like what?" She hesitated, then said, "Like we're average." That word, average, echoed in my head. I'd spent my entire life trying to be decent, dependable, stable. I never thought those things would become insults. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just said, "You used to say you wanted simple happiness." "And I did," she replied. "But maybe I lied to myself. Maybe I wanted more than you could give. The honesty in her voice should have hurt, but instead it clarified everything. It wasn't just about money. It was about pride, image, validation, things I couldn't buy even if I wanted to. For the next week, we moved around the house like ghosts. She'd come home late, blaming meetings. I stopped asking where she'd been. At dinner, the silence was louder than words. Then one Friday evening, I got home early. Her car was already in the driveway, but the house was quiet. I walked into the living room and saw shopping bags on the couch. Designer brands, the kind she used to say were a waste of money. She came out from the bedroom, startled to see me. "You're home early." "I can see that," I said, glancing at the bags. "Looks like someone had a productive day." She crossed her arms. "Daniel, don't start." "I'm not starting anything," I replied. "Just noticing how affection's doing business these days." Her eyes narrowed. "You're being petty." "No," I said calmly. "I'm being observant." She exhaled sharply and turned away. "I'm going to my mom's for the weekend. We both need space." That night, I didn't stop her. I just watched her leave, suitcase in hand. The sound of the door closing was quieter than I expected, but somehow final. After she left, I walked through the house room by room. Every picture on the wall, every little decoration, every memory, it all felt staged now, like props in a story that had already ended. On her vanity, I found an old photo of us from our second anniversary. We were sitting on a park bench, her head on my shoulder, both of us laughing. I remembered how she'd said back then, even if we had nothing, I'd still be happy. I smiled bitterly. Maybe she meant it then. Or maybe she just didn't know how much nothing actually felt like. When she returned Sunday night, she seemed distant but composed. I was sitting in the kitchen, paperwork spread across the table. "What's all this?" she asked. "Budget sheets," I said. "I was figuring out how much our marriage is worth." She frowned. "What are you talking about?" I looked up. "You said affection depends on my wallet." So I did the math. Between the mortgage, your shopping, and everything else. Apparently, I'm broke in more ways than one. Her eyes widened slightly, unsure if I was joking. I wasn't. "Daniel, don't be dramatic," she said. "Dramatic?" I stood, folding the papers neatly. "No, Claire. I'm just doing what you told me. Putting value where it belongs." She crossed her arms again, her defense posture. "You're twisting my words, am I?" I asked quietly. "Because I remember exactly what you said. Affection depends on my wallet. So let me make this simple." I paused, letting the silence fill the room. "This marriage is worth nothing." She blinked as if trying to decide whether to be angry or shocked. But I didn't wait for her answer. I walked past her toward the bedroom and started packing. She said behind me, "You're really doing this?" I turned once more, meeting her eyes. "No, Claire. You did this. I'm just accepting the invoice." That night I left. No shouting, no tears. Just the sound of my car door closing and the long, steady hum of the engine as I drove away from the life I'd been financing with hope. I didn't go far, just to a small motel off the highway. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the cheap lamp and floral wallpaper. For the first time in years, I felt strangely calm. There's a freedom that comes when you stop trying to fix someone who's already decided you're not enough. Love shouldn't be a business model, and marriage shouldn't feel like debt. The next morning, I texted her only one line. "Consider this your final payment." I deleted her number afterward, and as I stepped outside, the air felt lighter. I realized that sometimes, walking away isn't about giving up. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you sold for someone else's comfort.